don't know if any of you have had a chance to spend some time with Keith Blosser. He's taken over as Managing Director of Operations at CCAO. So one of his major roles with our organization is to help with the Service Corps programs, all the ways that our board tells us to try to leverage purchasing power to save counties money. And that takes various forms. And today we were wanting to hone in on a specific program, which is our energy program, and Palmer Energy is our energy partner. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves and go down the line.
Yeah, Kirk Mazarek. For Palmer Energy, I'm one of the owners of Palmer and the lead person that works on all the county work. So I travel out around all 88 counties talking in these type of sessions on a weekly basis.
I'm Bob Snavely. I work for Kirk. I'm an account rep, and I take care of about 18 counties in Ohio for the energy program.
So with that, if we want to talk a little bit about...
Sure. Last year, Geauga, as you're already aware of, chose to participate in the electricity program. And at that point, we have gone out for RFP a number of different times. And this program that you're participating in, not formally yet, but with the CCAO, you signed those agreements, has been extraordinarily successful for the counties that are participating in the state. We're right around 60 counties that are actively buying third-party electric supplies through various suppliers. And everything on this program is based upon the RFP process, and that's a very important part of it, to make sure that you are all getting the best prices out there. Now, even though we've RFP'd out a few times, we have not actually signed an agreement, you actually signed it, acting as you right now, with the suppliers at this particular point. There's been a little bit of a, I don't want to say disconnect, but we've been trying to work with your prosecutor to get those agreements approved so that then they can get across to your desk to provide the savings. And to give you an idea on what we're talking about monetarily here is this latest RFP is right around $6,000 a month in savings for Geauga County versus what you're paying right now. So it's not a small amount of money, obviously. It's a significant amount of money that can be saved for the county to go through this. Coincidentally, we have a meeting. Glenn's been great to work with. We've been working with him through this whole process, Bills and all the other, acting as kind of the liaison between the prosecutors and us on this. He set up a meeting for 1 o'clock this afternoon. I believe his administrator and the prosecutor yourself will be in that meeting.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And we're going to go over this information in a lot more detail. But what we really need to do is just come down to grips and get everybody on the same page. At this point, I think some of the responses on those agreements are realistic. Obviously, let's be out for identification. It's a standard deal. And you have to remember something. When you're dealing with these multi-billion-dollar-a-year corporations, they have a standard form agreement. Until you're ready to sign it, they don't change things such as identification. That's very easy to get tossed out of these agreements. It's not a big deal. Other issues are not a big deal, or are a big deal to get tossed out. And those are the issues that we really need to work with your prosecutor on to allow, it's her, to understand why these suppliers need these. And if you ask Suzanne, I'm very rarely on the side of suppliers in any of these instances, but when it comes down to their payment and them providing a service to you and them having some kind of agreement in the background saying that, yes, you'll pay us for providing these services to you, I believe they're in the right on that. And those are the issues that we really need to address today. But the latest RFP comes back as around $6,000 in savings per month. And where the process goes for at this point is what we would do is work out a few of the agreements with the prosecutor so that once we have a refresh date, electricity is a little bit different than most other products you're buying. That price is good for 1 day, and that's it. And when you're good for that 1 day, you sign on that day, and if you don't sign on that day, you're got to play the game again on another day. So what we have been doing in other counties, and it's worked very well, albeit it can be a little stressful in the timing of everything, is we get a few of the agreements approved by the prosecutors before that refresh date, and then we come out and meet with you on that refresh date, say here's the final, these agreements have been approved, they're signed off on already, this needs to be signed and given to us by 2 o'clock so we can get it to suppliers by 3, 4 o'clock that day in order to lock in those prices. And that's really, again, the important part, and there's nothing that I can do to control that. The market in electricity can dramatically change, minute by minute, but, for the most part, can change. And suppliers, I guess theoretically, you could go out on a longer basis for when those can be signed in, but you won't get the best price. The best way to get you the best possible savings is to play it that way, go through the RFP refresh process, and go from that perspective.
How do you handle that from a nuts and bolts issue where you may have a window of 4 or 5 days that you're going to, on your RFP, is that, if I understand what you're saying, you're going to get a quote for this day, Monday, a quote for Tuesday, a quote for...
No, it's a little bit different from that.
Okay.
What really happens is, so we put out a preliminary RFP and get the responses back. We come to you with a response that these 3 or 4 suppliers, we need to get these agreements okayed by your prosecutor so that you can sign them on the day. Or, Glenn, did you mention that, does the administrator now have the authority to sign those agreements? Okay, so
We went through sessions.
right, which is
Okay.
actually
So
much
you-
easier.
So
pick
we
out
don't
the
have
day.
to
No, you've
comply
already
with sunshine
authorized.
law regulations
Right.
and so-and-so's on vacation or
Yeah.
somebody,
He's already approved to sign them.
that's all handled.
But in the case of this agreement, how the refresh date works, then we'll have all these the RFP results for the refresh will be due late in the morning on that day, and around 1 o'clock we'll have a meeting with you with those results. It takes us a little bit of time to put together. Here's all the results. We need to put them all together and compare apples to apples on what's coming out there. And then at that meeting, if you agree with what our recommendations are on this particular thing, you go through all the numbers. You'll say yes, let's do this. Sign on the dotted line. We'll get a PDF over to that supplier immediately. And again, if you don't do that day, you have to do the whole
Yeah, it
RFP
changes.
refresh again because it just can. Does it change that fluidly? Sometimes it does. I mean, it can be very dramatic. And where it can change depending on weather conditions or market, whatever happens on that. But the reality is that's how we're forced to get you the best possible price. But it's all again through the RFP process.
So, I'm going to demonstrate my stupidity here. Tell me again what your relationship is with CCAO and why what this is all about.
Sure.
Because I'm confused.
So-
I mean, we have an organization, our maintenance department, and I negotiate with my power company all the time, and I know that I've got an opportunity to get a 1-year leveraged kind of a thing. I talk to the state PUCO and say, hey, what's the best deal, da-da-da-da-da, and I sign my contract and away I go.
Sure.
Why are we doing this? I'm confused.
Absolutely. So, CCO has a Service Corp Board of Directors, which is made up of our commissioners. There's 35 who serve on that. And they told us to go forth and create a program to leverage the purchasing power of the counties. And as you heard, we have about 60 participating already in this energy purchasing program. And there were a couple of key components that they said to be sure to put together when we created the program. One is find an independent energy consultant that is not affiliated in any way with any suppliers or isn't trying to sell a certain product or service, right? So independence and expertise, and that's where we have an agreement with Palmer Energy to help us issue the RFPs and provide guidance around the program. We also have an energy executive committee that consists of some facility experts, some county administrators, and some commissioners who have expertise in the energy, and anybody who is in our program gets a seat at the table, and then we have an executive committee of that group. So there's a lot of involvement and ownership of the CCAO and its membership in this energy program. Does that answer?
How many counties are involved, did you say?
60?
There's over 60 in
the-
electricity, over 60 in gas.
Yeah.
And then there's 28 in government aggregation. So, I mean, it's substantial. The other good thing about this program is it has been beneficial for counties of all sizes. The large counties participate, the medium-sized counties participate, the small counties participate. Even there's counties out there that have full-time energy managers and they're still participating in this
So
purchase.
how do we know, is there metrics being kept to know that we're in fact getting a good deal? And what that deal is, and, because there's a cost to using these guys, right? into having all of the commissioners and and all the bureaucracy around doing all of this. And
There's
so,
really not a whole lot in the way of bureaucracy. It's the competitive process by which Palmer was selected. And then we use them to advise, and we have, obviously, when we ask to have our annual board meeting and then the Energy Executive Committee, those are conference calls, and none of those folks are compensated. They're choosing to be a part of a program that they've helped create.
okay.
So we don't really have much in the way of a bureaucracy around this program. It's very nimble, and there are several competitive factors and things that we monitor. If you want to talk a little bit about the
Sure.
reports that we do for participants.
Yeah, definitely. One thing is that the energy committee that she's talking about right now is made up of commissioners and facilities managers located around this area. Actually, if you're familiar with Chuck Clough at Lake County, Chuck's on the energy committee. Gerard Solomon from Geauga County's on that as well. There's a guy from Lorain County, and there's people from various aspects of all the counties throughout, located in various areas of the state that participate on an active basis. What we do, and it keeps coming back to the RFP process. I RFP out your electric, and historically, it's what we try to do is put you into larger bid packages. So the natural gas program has, we put out 60 counties to RFP to the various suppliers and get back the best deals. Now, to give you an example, it's changed over the years. We got involved with the CCO Service Corp in 2009. There was one supplier throughout the state of Ohio at that point, and there were 29 counties participating. We now have 4 suppliers that are supplying various areas of the state, and that's important because what may be good down in the Hamilton County area is certainly not good up in the Geauga County area, and what is probably not good in the Lucas County area. So we had to RFP out the different sections and give that kind of, credence to the program, that recognizing that suppliers are different in every other area. Plus, suppliers' prices change as you gain, more capacity or less capacity in the market. Your prices go up and down at that particular point. So we RFP that out. Now, I do not make any decisions for you. I give you recommendations. I tell you what I think you should be doing based on market conditions. And then what happens in the natural gas is the natural gas committee that is made up of the individuals that we talked about is actually making these decisions on your marketing or the suppliers for the natural gas. And then at times when you want to lock in various volumes for, say, the summer, the coming winter, and those kind of things, they're making those decisions for you. Electric's a little bit of a different type of deal. We do try to do larger bid packs with that. And if once you're, call it, in this program, the next time you're around, you'll be with 15 or 20 counties when we're RFPing this out. Right now, you're just out there right now because we want to get you some savings immediately because there's substantial savings out there. But it still comes back down to the process that we discussed with the RFP refresh, getting the prosecutor to approve the agreements, having a refresh date at that point to give you what the best price is. Then we analyze those bids that come in to give an apples-to-apples approach. And to her point on our independents out there, Mark and I own the company. It's been around since '81. He bought in the early '90s. I bought in about 10 years ago to the company on that. We're an independent consultant. We do go down and testify at the Public Utilities Commission very frequently on various cases. We are on your side out there. We are on your constituent side to get you the best possible deals out there. It does not mean that utilities are bad. Utilities are out there for a person. It doesn't mean that suppliers are bad. They're out there for a reason as well. But we need to be out there to make sure that you're getting the best possible deal that we can do that. And through the RFP process, we're able to do that. The other thing that goes hand in hand with this is we can work with Glenn to get you budgets on an annual basis to show what you're going to be using or what you're going to be paying for estimated quantities, because obviously the weather changes. I can't do anything with the weather. I wish I could, but can't do that. We would give out budgets, and then we give out a savings analysis. This is what you saved last year on your particular program. And again, right now, based on historical volumes for your electricity, you're right around $6,000 a month in savings if you participate on this program. And you've already taken the one step of signing on with the CCAO program. We just have to get you the supplier now that you go through that.
what's the, I don't know, escape clause? If we do this deal and for some reason we don't like it, that's a comedy, you know, whatever. What's the duration? Is it a 3-year, 5-year contract? Is it a year to year?
The deal with the supplier right now is a 3-year deal, and the reason for that we're recommending a 3-year deal, we all know that a lot of commodity prices are depressed right now. You know, we're swimming in a world of oil, we're swimming in a world of natural gas. Electricity right now is the fluctuating price is the natural gas commodity. You know, they've got their coal price, they've got their nuclear price, the swag fuel is the natural gas at this point. And when you have that as your, call it your swag fuel, and you've got depressed pricing, we see good pricing right now going out 3 years. I wish I could go a little bit farther actually for you, but it just doesn't make sense to do that based on what can change at the PUCO or a FERC level basis. So 3 years seems to be a very safe area on there. We could do 1- and 2-year agreements. I still don't recommend that because I still look at some point here, these commodity prices are going to turn around. And then in turn, when natural gas turns around, goes a little bit higher, your electric prices are going to go higher. And I would rather you lock in that lower generation cost right now to save you money for as long as we can at this point. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because commodities are at record low prices, if you will, at least in modern times. And yeah, you want to do it that way. If we were up at some skyrocketing prices, then you might want to do a year-to-year basis to speculate on prices dropping.
Well, I don't like to speculate, Bert. We don't do any of that.
Well,
I agree, and you know, every market condition changes dramatically. We are at lower prices in the natural gas market. There's no question about it. Could we go lower? Sure, absolutely. And there's a very good chance that we're going to be there. You know, coming out of this winter, we're at substantially higher storage levels with natural gas in the ground at this point than we historically are. We have a cool summer. You're going to see the prices on natural gas go dramatically lower. Dramatically to me may not be your same definition of dramatic, but it could go down substantially. And that being said, you and I can sit here and wait for 6 months for the price to go on, and you just lost $36,000. Yeah, I mean, it's that simple of a mathematical equation on it. So those are things that we have to look at on this type of approach. But
so,
once you sign the agreement, you're locked in for that 2-3 year period.
It's a fixed period.
It's a fixed. It's in the electricity purchasing program. It's a fixed period. It's a fixed price for a fixed period. Natural gas is a little bit different with that committee. They do some hedging. The reason we really don't do hedging per se in electricity, we do it in some limited basis areas, is that, again, the price of electricity can just go up so dramatically, so quickly, that your risk associated with electricity is you can throw your savings out in one day if you don't have the right agreement and the right protections. So it's just much better, in our opinion, for the counties to do these longer-term agreements.
So, a couple things. First of all, we're not a part of this now. So we're talking about is signing up for this.
Well,
You signed it.
yeah, and so the question is, are you ready to lock in on this particular deal?
With the
Yeah,
suppliers.
we're
the suppliers.
already signed up with you folks. The problem is a legal question between our prosecutor and the suppliers that needs to get ironed out.
You're signed up with the CCO Service Corp program.
Right.
It's not me, it's
Right,
the
Right.
program.
Right.
Yeah,
And so we've had recommendations from the experts that we hire to help make decisions. And it's time to either move forward or we need to stop going out for bid. Because I think we've done this several times.
Yes.
And then we're not taken seriously, I think, in the market if we're going out to bid a lot but never getting to a
And the
deal.
ball's in our court, so to speak,
Well,
right
yeah,
now.
so-
The hang up or whatever it is language.
Right, and these are contracts that we hired an attorney for us, as CCO Service Corp, to help create the template. There are some points where we can have some flexibility, as Kirk alluded to. There are other areas where the suppliers would not sign
Right.
if we were to amend. So we just have to sit down and go through line by line and figure out what those concerns
Okay.
are. which parts could be negotiable and which parts, because of the market we're in, would not be, and get that resolved as soon as possible, because we really can't keep the cycle that we've got now. I
You're
think
gonna do that at one?
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, we're
what
gonna
we
sit
should
down
do.
with
Sit
Laura.
down with
and-
Laura.
And then I'll come back to you, to the board individually and say that these are the concerns Laura had. You know, when you can weigh, you know, we'll get some more input. There's other counties that have signed these documents, so that's part of what you need to understand is, you know, our
Well-
prosecutor does a very great job of protecting the board. And at some point, though, sometimes just what she may be asking for may be beyond what the other side's willing to accept.
We're recognized as a conservative county.
Yep.
And that's wonderful.
Yep.
But when you want to play somebody else's game, sometimes you have to play by their rules,
Yep.
or accept some of their rules for that.
We got 2 contracts back right now, and they've been through the prosecutors, so we got those, and at 1 o'clock we're gonna sit down. They've said with the prosecutor.
Different suppliers, now I get to play a game again with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But.
Well, one was
No, I
Nordic,
saw that.
so.
Nordic's one.
Right,
The-
so-
There seems to be one sticking point. The other issues seem to be relatively minor, and I think there's ways to talk. But I think the big sticking point right now is, it seems that she wants the ability to, any time that you want out of this agreement, you can just get out of the agreement. That, you know, when a supplier locks in a price for you, they're actually going out on the market and locking in the price. And 6 months down the road, you can't just say, nope, we want out of this, we're gonna go somewhere else at that point. That's not how these deals work. And to a very simple thing on that, again, it pains me to say I'm agreeing with the supplier on this, but if you go to an agreement with them for 3 years or 2 years or whatever that agreement period happens to be, you need to uphold your end of the bargain. And that's where I see.
Because they're making a commitment.
They're making a commitment. They have financial obligations that they're putting in place for you on your behalf to provide electricity at this. You need to pay them for that side of the agreement.
Name a supplier for me.
The ones that we're looking at here will be Dynegy, Nordic, Mid-America, and AEP.
And none of those guys actually produce electricity.
I'm sure they do. AEP.
Or are they buying electricity from First Energy and those guys that actually have power plants? Or am I in
Well,
line?
AEP certainly has different power plants. I believe Dynegy has certain power plants around and everything. Yeah, some of these are called marketers. Some of them are actual generating.
Dynegy's not an Ohio company, is it? Or-
It was previously Duke Supply.
Duke
side.
Supply.
Yeah,
Duke
that's
They
Supply.
bought Duke, which is Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And again, those are decisions that you need to make for me. I just give you what the pricing matrices are out there and tell you this is what it is, this is your best deal.
Mhm.
Whether you guys choose to go on that direction or not is up to you at that
The
point.
reason that I am trying to I'm trying to add up one in my head here, because maybe I'm just an old paradigm and I can't get over it. You know, First Energy used to be our public utility before it was First Energy, and they put in a wire and they ran the power to your house.
Yeah.
It is not that simple today. You've got
Absolutely.
all these guys out there today who are basically marketers of power. They don't really produce power. They just cut a deal and make arrangements. But I worked in the power industry with First Energy as a consultant for a little while, and they spool up and create a certain amount of power based on past performance, past requirements, with a little fudge factor, and they're producing that power. And that's just what it is, and they're gonna produce it, and so there's no additional cost to them. They're producing it at that level, and so.
But they did not bid this.
No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is, well, they did, because it goes into the grid, and the grid doesn't differentiate power, right?
Well, no, they didn't. They certainly did not respond to this RFP.
No, you missed my point. I'm not trying to argue with you. Again, my
It's the whole
paradigm-
electric deregulation
Yeah,
and the
my
complexity that comes with
The actual physical delivery process
Retail.
is, you got power companies that put power into the grid,
Call it a paper shuffle?
and so that's right, it's the paper shuffle at the end of the day, because power is what it is, and it's a very, it's a very fragile thing. You don't, people say save power, you don't save power, you can put it in your pocket. It's produced and you use it, either you use it or you lose it. And so, it's produced, it's put into the grid, you know, Duke does it, First Energy does it, they're all pumping this into the grid, and then people are get credits or however that's done. It's very confusing to me. So it's just a little different paradigm that I'm trying to get my head around in terms of how these guys play with that power that's out there in the grid. Some of it they produce, some of it they sell from whoever produced it and put it on the grid. So am I getting that right?
Well, what you have is that in this deregulated society, and if you want to use First Energy's case, they've got their deregulated side, which is First Energy Solutions,
Right.
versus the regulated side, which in your case is CEI, or Toledo Edison, wherever you want to go on that side. The First Energy Solutions is out there actively selling some power supplies out there, that's correct, and they're also selling power supplies in the market through auction processes and everything else. I understand your point on, yes, it's all thrown in there, there is no electricity that's saved. We don't have these monstrous battery banks. Our battery banks are, natural gas turbine plants that can spin up on the moment's notice to take care of that additional need on the system at that particular point. It is a very complex thing, you're right, they're on who's buying what, but it is based on, the PUCOs behind those agreements. The FERC is doing all this, they're the ones that are putting all these things in place in order to provide you electricity. Now, what we're able to do here through PUCO and state law over the years is your third-party supplies for what you're actually using. Now, we're not talking the lines right outside we're talking about the electricity itself. You're able to go out there and competitively bid the process to get you the best possible price out there.
Well, the reason for bringing that up, well, it appeared to be a stupid question, and maybe it was if you have a clause in it that allows you to get out of it, like, for example, I have a contract in my home, and I have a termination clause, and that says I can terminate anytime I want to. I get a deal, it's a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal, I forget now, but I can terminate anytime I want to. And the reason I can terminate is because it really creates no harm. And so the question I have, the reason for kind of trying to get my head around that,
no harm
for the supplier, the guy that's producing electricity, because they're producing that quantity of power at some, based on some past historic performance. They're not saying, oh, Claypool plugged in his hairdryer, and now I need to produce more power. They have to be able to design their system to produce at a certain level. And so that's their cost. So they build the cost into the price based on what that historic demand is, and then they go out there and they try to shuffle it around, and so or sell that around. So if we've got a contract with them which says a 2-year thing, 2-year deal, and I don't know why we put a escape clause in it, but I'm assuming it's because maybe there's a better deal out there, and so we would want to be able to get out of that, and or we're not getting power, or lights are going out, or some other reason why we would have that escape clause. But I don't know the harm in having the escape clause in there, because either you're doing a good job and we won't want to escape, we won't have the termination, or you aren't doing a good job, and in which case if we terminated, it wouldn't be a big deal because there's not really harm to this.
Commissioner, there is an escape clause out of it. You can get out of it, but you're going to pay for the power that you said I want to lock in. And
we're going to sign a contract. It's no different than we sign somebody to plow our driveway out here. We sign an annual contract and we say we're going to pay them this much money, and we're going to pay them if it snows or it doesn't snow that much money till the end of the contract.
Well, in this case, though, it's a little bit different than that from the standpoint of their full requirements agreements. Whether you use 2.6 million kilowatt hours or 3.2 million kilowatt hours, we have the same price negotiated here.
Right, same cost per kilowatt hour. To me, it's like the decision is we either agree to, in this case, save approximately $6,000 a month. Correct. I mean, I wouldn't go electric chair on the number, but it's a significant number annually. But we need to conform to the rules or to the agreement that our supplier brings forward. They're not holding a gun to our head. We can just walk away from the whole thing and pay more money.
Well, and I can tell you that if you chose to cross that part of the agreement out where you're going to have the option to get out at any point, you won't find one supplier that's going to say, okay, I'm going to agree to those terms.
Yeah,
they're going out there and they're financially saying at that point, they're locking in those prices for you. This isn't, I don't want to put it in this perspective, but they're not locking in 1,000 kilowatt hours. They're locking in millions of kilowatt hours on your behalf. They're putting their necks out in line to have that show up and be delivered. I believe that you owe it to them to pay them for that usage. And if they are not competitive the next time around, then they'll lose the business next time around. But it's not quite as simple as saying that they're going to make money anyways or on it. if you don't provide them the service. There's a lot of kilowatt hours here.
Is that $216,000 over the life of the contract, roughly? Isn't it 72,000 times 3?
Actually, thanks for that response, because one and one are adding up here a little bit now. It was 3, now it's 2, so I think.
What's
good.
2?
He's not getting me.
I got you.
You got me.
1 and 1 is getting to 2 now.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
So I was having a little disconnect.
So
in
our
terms of putting things
decision is
together.
what we tell the prosecutor
But I
what we
think
want.
I'm
We either want
understanding now.
Well, I'm gonna come back and say, these are the parts of the contract as laid out to us that our prosecutor finds a little bit problematic. Yeah, this happens in a variety of things that you guys have. to
Yeah,
consider.
well, in a
Is
perfect
that a risk?
world, yeah, I'd like to be able to buy it and sell it on a daily basis
Right.
and play that game. But if I go out and lease a car, they quote me a price. I don't get to turn
Well-
it back in or in 2 years renegotiate the thing if it's a 3-year lease. I just,
I mean, we're paying current market right now,
Yeah.
and we're not committed, but that means we're losing
so,
$6,000.
well, and so if it changes, well, it won't change, but
When does this take effect?
as soon as we sign
That,
it.
that depends more on you than me at this point.
So when it's signed, then it's immediate effect? It doesn't
Well,
start in
you know, you have
a
to get
month, 6
everything
months,
based on
whatever.
on meter read dates. It could be 4 to 6 weeks later on, depending on when your read date is. But yes, if you would get this going right now, obviously your summer months are when you use the most electricity based upon the heating, the cooling costs. We would have that by the summer. If you choose not to do it now, we can do it later. But you are and yes, that the 6,000 a month is an estimation based upon your historical usage. It's the best guess that I can say to it. Based upon your historical usage, I'm estimating this. If we have a really, really hot summer, it's going to be higher than that. If we have a cool summer, it's going to be a little bit lower than that because you're not using as much power.
Who else included? Just the county offices?
We have approximately 13 buildings, accounts throughout the county. Basically just ours, Sheriff Center, 470, the Annex Courthouse, County Home, and all those areas.
Like Water Resources does their own, right? And they use a lot of power, especially.
So
down-
why would they not be under our?
Well, historically, they've managed their own because they're using it in an enterprise fund. It's not to say that down the line they couldn't be. I don't know if you have other county.
It's
Utility
a county
departments that do.
decision, how
Yeah.
many facilities you bring to the table.
Right.
And you are the
Would that
contract
change-
authority for the county,
Would
so.
that change the contract, or can we?
We
I
gotta
don't-
look and see what Water Resources may be in the middle of a contract.
They
We
are
gotta
in the
see
middle
what-
of it.
Yeah, so whether you want to ever make those align again in the future is completely up to you. So some counties have kept everybody coordinated and orchestrated such that all the facilities are in our program. Others have not, and you have a few buildings or facilities that have moved ahead and gone a different direction. So we've seen a little bit of everything out there. So what you're telling me isn't surprising. There are other counties I've been to where they have a facility or two that are on a different cycle or already are in a deal. So we take the facilities that aren't in a deal and save you some money with those.
And then other facilities that will, if their deal's up in 1 year, we can add them. We can actually RFP it out right now, we can sign on their behalf for that later on, and then they're up to that price to set year 2 and 3. They're all over the place. The vast majority of the county facilities seem to be in the program for all the counties, but there are cases of Suzanne's talking about, there are some facilities that aren't in there. Maybe a sheriff did his own thing, maybe a water treatment plant did their own thing, or whatever else, but that's.
So the way the contract is constructed, are there named entities then? I mean, you actually have facilities named in the contract?
Oh, absolutely.
You got XYZ, it's not Geauga County.
Are you using existing electric
We're using existing
contracts?
data.
I mean, existing accounts.
Right, you're gonna have there's gonna be one of the pages in the actual agreement will list out every facility and their estimated usage on that, without question.
You mentioned other issues with the prosecutor. You said they were minor. This was the major one.
I think that's it. The other ones, I think they're, and we could talk about it, but like identification, automatically, these supplier agreements all have that in there, and I know how you don't like that. I get it. I can't get it out unless you're serious about signing an agreement with that supplier. They just don't do it. Their lawyers don't. We've tried to get these lawyers of these multi-billion-dollar corporations have a government contract. They will not do it until they're ready. And I don't, you know, in many cases, these companies, those people don't care if they're gonna get this work or not. Obviously, their local sales rep may, or does want this work, but when it comes to the higher echelons of the legal ease, they don't really care or not. It doesn't seem if they're gonna get it or not, so it's one of those deals.
Well, where do we go from here then? You're gonna meet him at in an hour.
All we ask is your leadership that we get kind of that final answer so that we aren't staying.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a problem with if we sign a 1-year contract, 2-year contract, 3-year contract, that we abide by the conditions of that contract for that period of time. I mean, the fact that we can back out 18 days into the program or some ridiculous number or whatever is, to me, that's like stacking the deck and you know, that's not the way the world works. It's an agreement. It's an agreement that's.
You can try, right? That's right. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, the world does work that way, Blake, sometimes.
Well, they put their best deal on the table. We like it or we don't like it, and then we go.
I mean, logic tells me that you're gonna get a better discount when you commit for a period of time. Like you said, someone else is buying that, they're committing. If you're not willing to do that, you're not gonna get the same discount as somebody who does.
They have certain expenses that they have to cover.
What
and
if we-
predicted, revenue source is something that helps them to adjust their
What if we do a
games up.
1-year deal instead of a 3-year deal, and in a year, the price goes up? Then how smart were we then?
We're rolling the dice. That's
And
right.
then that's why we
that's-
hire
that's-
experts to tell us what should be
So we fire them.
the average. Well, it's us you would fire, let's
So
be
how-
clear, but.
How are they compensated?
There,
Palmer?
if you want to go, if we can talk a little bit about the administrative.
Yeah, there's a 1 mil fee, which is 1/10 of 1 cent per kilowatt are included in this. But I split that with Suzanne. I'm not, it's for their program, so I'm
Really?
not.
How's your house? Are you get a nice house? A little boat?
Oh, yeah.
Free
Not
electricity.
exactly a personal check,
Yeah.
but it goes to the
And-
service corp for other programs and.
It offsets our costs as well as theirs, but I will tell you, if you try to arrange this level of commitment and expertise in other areas, there are counties that aren't in ours, and I think you'll find that our rate is very good.
We've been very happy with our healthcare, and you guys help set that up. Yeah,
Of course.
And I'm gonna trust Glenn and Dave, because at the end of the day, those are the experts.
And I understand you got some good course of renewal
Yes.
information as
Yes.
well for property liability and casualty.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we say those programs, it's you all. I mean, it's a member-driven organization. And so the strength comes from your.
I mean, essentially, you work for us.
Exactly. Not
Not just
do.
us.
There's no essentially
Yeah,
or kind
I mean-
of.
I mean,
yes,
I'm okay with it, and I'm okay if we are not allowed to back out of the contract on a daily basis. If we sign for 24 months or 36 months, then yeah, is it a gamble? Yeah.
Let me ask this is a goofy question, given my past experience in contracts. Is it ever heard of that you have a clause that allows an escape or a termination with an extended period of time? In other words, we might make the decision 6 months later, which gives the company then a chance to adjust. Is that something that is ever done? And I'm asking more for curiosity. I'm kind of Blake side on this, but
You know, you can do anything, you can ask for anything in these agreements that, I think the vast majority of the suppliers, you say, no, we don't want to do that, this is what you're asking for. What you're asking for partially there is more of a, I call it a hedge on your electricity, the opportunity to lock in volumes. We can do that, I don't think that's in your best interest right now. I mean, if you have a hot summer this year, prices go up, you just lost any savings you ever thought you had, that sort of thing. You could do a 1-year contract, if that's the direction you think you're going. I would say do a 1 year, which I still don't agree with. That's not my recommendation remotely here. You should go in a 3-year deal here from my perspective based on where the market conditions currently lie. But if you ask for an out clause like that, you can get out of these contracts anytime you want. You're just going to pay the termination fees and the penalties associated with that. Now, I have never recommended that. to anything. I never will recommend that. And in addition to that, I've never seen a case where it makes financial sense to even remotely do that. Just there's too many
Normally,
penalties.
the penalties are way too high.
Well, the penalties are way too high, and it's back to the other thing too, of if you choose to wait a few months on this, that, say that $18,000 in savings, this market, your price isn't all of a sudden gonna just go in half. It's not gonna, we're pretty low right now compared to where the price is at.
I was going to say that if you were to look at the profile for the last 5 years or whatever, we're down in here versus.
It's a good time.
I could go out longer, but if you could at some level, but there's certain, you have state regulations through PUCO, you don't know what it's gonna be like too far out. You have FERC regulations that may come, you just don't wanna, 3 years seems to be a pretty good thing right now to go for on that.
I'm with Blake. I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, you hire experts and you let them do their job. You start to second guess the experts, then, next thing you know, you're slitting your wrists or something. I'd say we go with that.
We've had the program for many years, as you said, and it's had a good track.
We're not a
record
guinea
for us.
pig here. You're doing it, and yeah, well, it's new, and we may feel like the guinea pig. We aren't, I mean, you guys have other case history, and we rely on you folks to have shopped around, got the best proposals from the various companies. These were the successful bidders, and we go from there. And as far as my input to the prosecutor's office is, we do what's normal. I mean, you know what I'm saying is like, if you, like he said, if we can put it in there, we can drop out, sign today, drop out tomorrow, but it might cost us a lot of money. And I don't see a advantage in doing that. I'd go with whatever the recommendation is. If it's, my input to you, it's different. Ralph's not here, but my input is the 3-year deals, what they're quoting, and we can save around $6,000 a month, and
Yeah.
I don't, it could be $598 one month, it could be $607 the next, or something.
Depends on the temperature, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and when you're using it.
Right.
Right. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Any other business? We can adjourn this.
I think we can.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Oh,
you.
there's a question?
Sir, opportunity for a public question?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
State your name for the record.
How do I, as a citizen of Geauga County, sign on to this deal? Now, I'm serious, because this is an overall market question. You're taking energy out of the market as a group. You're saving money as a group. That saving is going to be made up someplace else, and I think I'm the one paying.
So, Susan, can you respond to that?
Well, I
'Cause
speak generally, the government aggregation programs are available for trying to pool purchasing power for individuals, so.
How is this different than the
Public
township
Utilities
program I'm
Commission.
involved in? There's got to be a Chardon Township, or what, Troy Township has a
An aggregation.
power
Talking about
aggregate
NOPEC?
agreement.
Talking about NOPEC, I believe.
It's a
Yeah.
buying.
Aggregation program.
Yeah, the PUCO apples to apples program for individuals versus facilities or businesses has the apples to apples comparison where you're essentially able to decide whether you want to do for gas. They have some that are fixed and some that are variable.
Right, and there's
Right.
some areas, and the CCO does have a government aggregation program. There's 27 counties currently participating in that program. I don't know, it's somewhere around 150, 160,000 households in the state are in her program, somewhere in that general area. That we go out for a RFP process again to get the best possible prices. Now that's a little bit of longer term. If you have not passed that, you have to pass that through the constituents. That yes, we want our commissioners to put us together and put us out to RFP, but that there are ways to do that. And I'm
For
sure
individuals, there are two methods. One
Right.
is government aggregation, which requires the vote,
correct.
and it can be a group of political subdivisions or county or
Said townships have that.
townships
Town-
have the
townships,
ability.
it can be townships.
And then
it
the
can be
second
cities.
way is to go on to the PUCO apples to apples and pick one through that mechanism as well. Those are the two ways
Well, it's
that
just
I know
it's just
of.
a philosophy that I have that anytime government gets its hands in anything, costs go up, and lo and behold, I believe that's the net effect. They're
And-
going down for you, but system-wide, I believe they'll go up. All right, I'm done. That's all I have to say.
Well, let me respond to that, because the experts here, they can, and I'm with you, generally speaking, I'm not a big government guy, even though I'm part of government. And Susan knows this, because we've had many conversations on this. But in this regard, the way that the mechanic, again, I'm saying this out of school, so I have this much experience in the power industry, which I respect highly, because having gone through some of those power plants, they are awesome. Watching how they produce power is an awesome thing. But with that said, when they produce power, based on consumption, expected, predicted rates that they've already produced. And so they're looking out into the future and they say, okay, we got this much power now we're consuming X amount of power today. If they can get that on a predicted basis, in other words, when you're in business, if you've got expected revenue, it's cheaper for you with that expected revenue. You have to put more money into sales and marketing, doing all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of like an expected commodity. That's good for the citizens because our rate goes down. The citizens actually save money because we're now committing to the power company. We're going to, from this supplier, we're going to buy from you, supplier, at this rate. That's better for them because now they can, because they're able to predict that income, that revenue, they're able to give us that better rate based on that prediction. That doesn't impact the rate at which they charge the public, because that rate, which is different, because it's, on again, off again. You could choose tomorrow to do business with Y company or X company or Z company or whatever. So those companies are trying to create some sort of a consolidated purchasing profile so that they can predict what their income is and what their expenses associated with the income have to be. We're just making it better or cheaper for this particular supplier so that they now have a more stable business, so to speak. But it doesn't, I don't think it impacts anybody else.
Well, another way to look at it, and I don't disagree with your questioning, but we're spending your money. Okay? So how does it affect you? Well, if we can save $72,000 a year out of the general fund, that's $72,000 a year that we may not have to come back to the voters as soon to pay for something else. It's not like your house, you say your electric rate may go up, mine might go up. I'm an individual, you're an individual. We're looking at the county purchasing, and where your paycheck or my paycheck pays for my electric bill, our taxes, yours, mine, theirs, everybody else pays for this one. So we try to, in government, economy of scale, we're trying to, what's the best deal we can get for our taxpayers? It's not us individually. If we can save $72,000 annually out of the general fund, we would be negligent if we didn't at least try and do it, because it's going to operate, the county's going to operate more efficiently. Now, I'm not naive, and neither are you. We're not going to send you a refund. We're going to find a place to spend that $72,000.
He's going to spend it. I'm going to try and give you a refund.
I'd love to do that. I'm just
I'll
saying.
support that.
Okay. I'm just saying that unfortunately, because of inflation and costs go up and so on and so forth. I mean,
Well, it's standard economics. I'm in business. I do contracts. I understand it.
Right.
I understand the fixed cost element to it. I understand the variable cost of writing an invoice to me versus writing one to the whole county and so on and so forth. But, just a philosophical question. If this amount of regulation is good and saves money, why not more? You're struggling for balance, and I understand that.
Yeah, I don't think this is a regulatory
Ultimately, I
thing
support
as
your-
much
Not a
as
regulatory.
this is more of a purchase contract. How do we get
Yeah.
smart in how we're purchasing our
Well,
power? We're not really
is that thing
regulating.
still on?
No,
or
you've got to do what you've got to do here. I recognize that. This is, a little commentary that I've brought to it.
I mean, I used to heat with fuel oil because I didn't have natural gas. I would have two options: electricity, fuel oil, or wood and coal. And I noticed that I had a 275-gallon fuel tank, and when I fill that tank in May, June, July, it was the lowest it was annually. and it was 275 gallons of fuel oil, or 1 gallon of fuel oil that provided so many BTU. But then in January, I'd pay 50 cents more a gallon for the same heat, gallon of fuel oil. So I got the grand idea that, well, why don't I just buy a couple thousand gallons in May, June, or July? Which I did, and I saved significant amounts of money. I had a couple of pitfalls there, but that was weather related. But there was a time when you'd buy it in July, and the price would go down. Now I think that only happened once, but because fuel oil was the commodity, and finally I just had to bite the bullet and go to a geothermal all-electric home.
Electricity is somewhat of a commodity, but there's so much fixed cost, fixed investment, fixed everything that's in there. It has its own little niche of economic study. But I suppose the follow-up question here, again, I say I know what you have to do, and you're going to go ahead and do it, and that's fine to save the money. Obviously I've got an eye on that as well. But are you going to take some steps to see if you can go beyond the tax saving? There won't be any tax savings. There's no savings to the citizenry. That's a fixed cost. You guys are a fixed cost.
I didn't say we're going to lower your taxes. I said we're going to spend less
the
money out of the
money
general
is an
fund.
illusion. It's a shell game. You go from shell 1 to shell 2 with it here in the county. It'll get spent. All right. But given the idea that this concept saves money for you, what are you guys going to do to try and see if you can't get some savings in it for us?
So you want government involved in your life, so we can come
well,
and,
it seems to be a good thing.
I don't know that we have a license to do that.
Well, I think the government aggregation is what you're talking about, which seems to be the program that your township has done, which is the group purchasing.
I mean, it's
for
come
our
too
concept.
far
Is
to
it
turn
the
back.
OPEC thing? I get confused.
You're not going to turn back
Well,
this
NOPEC
way.
is the one I'm familiar with, and most of the townships in Geauga are members of NOPEC.
Well, the prosecutor, I know he's involved in
He's
that.
on the NOPEC board.
He's on the board.
Yeah,
Yes.
Understand the
That's
process.
insignificant. The savings, I've looked at it, the savings that are available through those group buying things are absolutely insignificant there at that level. I don't know what the savings are. What kilowatt hour, by the way, are you going to charge the county? What rate? What they're going to actually pay for electricity? I never heard that number.
The kilowatt hour per unit cost?
What
I don't
is
have
it?
that right in front of me right now, sir.
At the end of the day, when the county writes out their check and they get the kilowatt hours times hours,
Right, I don't have that right in front of me.
okay.
Well, when
Just
you're-
I'd be real interested to see how that compares to my own bill at home.
It's lower. It's a lot lower.
it's going to be a lot lower, but the other factor is that you spend or use a couple thousand kilowatt hours a month. Okay, so obviously if you save, you could be buying it at the same rate we are, and our number's going to be higher because we're buying
Well, sure.
tens of thousands
Of
of
course,
kilowatt
of course.
hours a month. So we have to
And
remember
the more you buy,
that-
the cheaper it gets. That's basic economics.
well,
Yes.
yeah. So, but we have to get going here because
I'm
they have
done.
another meeting. So,
I'm done.
okay, we move to adjourn. 14, whatever it is.